What is the power of witchcraft? Elijah came under it after Jezebel doubled down after the fire from heaven incident. There were 2 times in my household before my wife left. One was, I can't remember who was involved, by the way. I'm not, I don't know whether it was my wife or some other. I can't remember exactly what it was, but one was an extraordinary night where I just drove off to pray up Portsdown Hill. The effect of the witchcraft spirit is to take down the male authority and overpower any sense of self-worth. Fourth quartiles live all their lives under a background hum of this as a spin-off of Matthew, Mark and Luke continuous rebellion against the lordship of Jesus Christ, preferring the useless pyramid order where millions die daily at the bottom end of the pyramid due to insufficient nutrients to live. This forces them to gaslight the fourth quartiles, whose very existence expose the uselessness and artificiality of living in a hierarchy order. Although the Portsdown night was so hard, as I prayed and then later drove around Lee Park, something moved in the spirit, and 3 people were put into our lives in the next week or so in Lee Park. An old Methodist lady and a young South African couple. The attack hit me so deeply, I drove and drove. The next attack hit me so deeply, I drove and drove up to the Midlands. I can't even remember what the incidents were. These sorts of events will happen to pastors. Here's the thing. It's given to men to have limited authority over families or places of work or administration, but it is given to no one person to carry a church. This is the current stupidity right across the world. Nowhere in the Bible, it's found nowhere in the Bible. I was addressing someone yesterday who quoted Moses. He was talking about Moses and the rebellion against Moses. And this is what pastors do. They set themselves up as this king figure, as if there's a scripture for it. Moses had a specific function, but he wasn't even in charge of everything. He wasn't. He was giving the word of the Lord, and they were rebelling and groaning about those sort of things. But there were 12 tribal elders, and there was loads of Levites. He's coming under this complete stupidity that all pastors everywhere, right across the world, all vicars, all priests live in this fantasy world where they think that they are in charge of a thing they are calling church, which is a synagogue. They are a rabbi. They are expecting people to call them pastor, call them rabbi, call them father, and they're using a different name. Everyone is everyone is using this fantasy. Just as Jews chose a king. They had the most incredible thing forming amongst them. The most incredible infrastructure that has yet to be fully unfolded. And they sort of sold it down the drain. No, we want a king. And they got a king. And eventually they led them into witchcraft, into sacrificing children. They entered into everything they had left. And so it is today amongst us. We're in the same framework, but it's hidden, so you don't know about it. This is so dreadful. So, of course, these things will, it's a stupidity in the earth, and it's only borne out by the fact that there's no town or city holding open heaven, is there? There's nowhere like Acts. No Jerusalem church. Instead, we have 2 ludicrous forms of church, and neither engage in reality. Currently, our churches are unscripturally small and unscripturally large. There's only 2 types of church in the Spirit. All people in one place who call on the Lord. So there's only one church in any locality. However much we play silly pyramid pastor games, Jesus doesn't hand out his blood. He doesn't hand out this gift of new life according to the stupid churches. It's if you are desperate and you need a doctor, you get life. He doesn't even see the ridiculousness. There's no such thing as a denomination. That's the bigger version of church that we created, which is fake. We don't need one. There's a body, capital B, homeostasis, in the mature third level, once we can see God. That's why there's a crown of 12 stars. In the spirit, the second type of church, the proper one in the spirit, the second type of church, have already died and are a cloud of witnesses in heaven interceding for us. Pastors who think they are solo kings need their head examined. If they listen to satanic ritual abuse survivors mounting vicious attacks, as well, the survivors of these groups and secret brotherhoods mounting vicious attacks on ecclesia and marriages and children. If you're stupid enough to be one solo king, expect that you're obvious to be attacked. James didn't last long in Jerusalem. Sam Fife died in his plane. Graham Pulkiam died in a crossfire in a 7-Eleven. David Watson and Roger Price died of throat cancer. Tony Morton was going the same way, but they prayed him round. These were significant Bible teachers. David Wilkerson died in a car accident. Uncle Sid heard from the Lord and took off his ring of Mordor power, putting a chainsaw to his whole ridiculous attempt at Pharaoh King Pastor. Don Francisco sings about this in Sunday Chainsaw of the Pulpit Massacre. He lived a full life, and almost immediately, as soon as he did that, international ministries were released from that South Chard church. Our authority is a Jesus version of the former Levite priests with poles. When Jesus ascended, he gave gifts to men. And the government shall be upon his shoulders. We are all priests, but there's a sequence in Psalm 84 where we are revealed before God in Zion.